I'm Kate Sears-Batowski, and I'm the Artistic Director of Expo Chicago, and I'm very excited to welcome you to our keynote talk of the opening of the 11th edition of the fair. This is a keynote conversation for dialogues, which is presented in partnership with the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. This evening, I'm excited to welcome Asma Naeem, Director of the Baltimore Museum of Art, artist Thelonious Stokes, and Chance the Rapper. The group will discuss the rich relationship between hip-hop and contemporary art in the 21st century, the exhibition The Culture, co-curated by Asma, which opened at the Baltimore Museum of Art last April, and Chance and Thelonious' collaboration on his upcoming Starline Gallery album, which you can see displayed to my right, The Last Stair. This conversation is moderated by Nate Freeman from Vanity Fair, and the panel will dive into hip-hop and its contributions to international contemporary art. After the talk, I invite you all to stay for a book signing of the catalog of The Culture with Asma Naeem. I want to say that this is our third year collaborating with Chance, and we couldn't be more excited that he continues to come back, do talks with us, and show us incredible art. We are very excited to welcome back for this third engagement with us. I now welcome Chance, Asma, and Thelonious to the stage, and we'll hand the microphone off to Nate.
Thank you, Kate, for that introduction. And I want to thank all three of you for coming. This is incredibly special to have the three of you on a panel together. Right off the bat, Chance, let's talk about growing up with Thelonious here in the great city of Chicago, one of the greatest cities on the planet Earth. So was there a sense growing up that both of you would get into the arts in some way? Like, Chance, did you always know that Thelonious wanted to be a painter? Did he know you wanted to go into music?
I'm be honest, I didn't know that you painted when we were kids. I didn't know that at all. I feel like my memories is, so Thelonious is 3 years younger than me, and he's in the same grade as my younger brother Taylor. So we used to all go to my house after school and slapbox in the basement, learn how to jerk. What else did we do? Make cheese sticks and shit? Footworking, boxing. Like, we used to just do bad stuff. Yeah. But we also...
Early levels of articulation.
Yeah. Sure. Like, we learned a lot of life lessons and a lot of cultural lessons together as kids, because that's kind of when you do a lot of your growing. But I feel like I always knew that Thelonious was artistic because both of his parents are artistic. And I was just seeing your dad today, and I was remembering he picked us up from the gas station that one time, and he was just talking to us about jazz and all types of stuff like that. So I always knew that Thelonious was very eclectic in the way that he thought about things, even from a young age. But I had no idea that he'd be, on the level that he is now, and, teaching in Italy, and, you know what I'm saying, like, being heralded by all these amazing art critics and stuff. Like, I didn't see it coming, but I'm not surprised, if that makes sense.
And Thelonious, what about you? Did you see the sort of start of Chance's interest in music and his the start of his career? Did you see that growing up together in Chicago?
Well, for me, absolutely. Like, I feel like when we were younger, you know what I'm saying, just watching like videos of Kanye and like noticing like Chance like actually mimic his moves and things of that nature. And me, my love for fashion shining through now, obviously through like people like Virgil and even Jerry Lorenzo, based from Fear of God, based here in Chicago. So back to Chano, he always affirmed that he was one of the greatest rappers like of the 21st century before, probably anybody knew him as a Chance the Rapper. So like it's always been something that was evident for me. Early poetic moments as well, like just this kind of socio-political response to like being in high school or like being in detention. Like me, I actually went a bit further and just fully dropped out of high school. And then it was amazing to like just blink, and now I'm teaching at institutes in Italy. So it's incredible, for sure.
And I wanted to ask about, how important was Thelonious for you, Chance, when you were branching out into curating, collecting, making, your own contemporary visual art? Did you guys have a dialogue about that? Well,
yeah.
Yeah? How did it start?
So, for those that don't know, I've been working and operating in the art space for about 3 years. Before that, I don't know how to draw or nothing. And 2022, I got interested in really just creating relationships with artists like becoming friends with them and learning about kind of the ecosystem within they work. And it came from meeting artists and finding out all these parallels between underground rappers trying to get some agency, trying to, you know, get some clout, but also retain their independence. With a lot of young artists that were trying to like figure out what galleries to be with or what collectors they could trust or how to get their, you know, their stuff to be seen by as many people as possible. And so once I learned that, which I learned in Ghana, and I'll talk about that later, I started reconnecting with a lot of friends that I had that were artists in the States. And the first person that I remember getting up with was Thilo, because for like 2 or 3 years prior to me learning anything about the arts, Thilo was like one of the first, I think the first black graduate from his school in Italy. He had been traveling the world, going to all these art fairs, creating pieces that are becoming iconic in our contemporary world, like the Louis Till piece. And I'm just hearing people, it's cool because I'm hyped up because this is literally like my little brother. And he's really taken off in this space. And so I just went to him and really asked him for advice for the first time in my life, and just asked him what he thinks about the project, what he thinks about working with artists and creating pieces so that the music could be tangible, and how to also do it in a fair way to make sure that everybody felt represented. And the product of that dialogue was The Last Stair, which is actually on that wall right now. That's the outro to my album. This is actually the first time that it's been in the United States since it was made in Italy in 2022. And
thank you. I appreciate
it's an incredible piece. But yeah, we made that piece 2 years ago, very soon after we had that conversation. And in that time since, all of the things that I've done in the art world, all the pieces that I've worked on for Starline Gallery have been either advised by Thelonious or at the very least influenced by what he does.
So on that note, I want to ask about the origin of The Last Stair, and it's incredible to have it here as we're talking. It looks amazing. How does it fit into the larger project that is Starline Gallery, the album and the art surrounding it? And can you tell us a little bit about the other artists involved and sort of how that project got started?
Absolutely. I love this piece so much to me, and I also want Thelonious to talk about it a bit because it's both of our pieces. But for me, what I get from it is the project, the Starline project, it's a lot of like resistance talk and a lot of like, it can almost seem violent at times because that's just the reality. And the whole project isn't like drenched in trauma in a way where it's like just hard to listen to, but there is a lot of resistance and just radical revolutionary talk in the project. And one thing that I learned in the past couple of years from my friends that are really actually doing the work, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm an artist, but I have friends that are real activists and real advocates. And one thing that they taught me is one of the most radical things you could do is rest, is to reclaim your humanity as a person in the struggle and decide that you need time for yourself. There's so many people that dedicate their lives to the movement that don't ever get paid, that don't ever get recognized, and never get any sleep. And I think that we forget about the importance of assigning yourself that humanity and giving yourself the space to just live as a person and not always as a future martyr. You know what I'm saying? And this piece, it's hard to see right now, and I think after the dialogue, everybody will have a chance to really look at it. But what it is it's kind of an impressionist, like blackwashed nativity scene. You'll see the angels, and you can see the wise men and Joseph around. But near the bottom of the painting, you'll see a Mary and a baby Jesus in this nativity scene. And I'm obviously a Christian. I'm sure you guys have heard. A lot of times, thank you. Shout out to God. In the Bible, they don't really. There's a lot of detail around the birth of Jesus and all the events that led up to it. But one detail that doesn't really get really fleshed out is what Mary's labor was like. And I imagine that it was tough. You know what I'm saying? Bringing in the savior of the world. And what I really wonder about is I've heard of there's this piece that women I've heard feel after delivering their child, after going through hours of labor, where when they first sit with their child and have them lay on their chest, they feel this, transcendental peace that nobody else in the world gets to experience. And that's what I felt like Thelonious captured. I felt like it was the moment after the birth of Jesus, this peace that now the world would begin to be restored, that I found in the piece. Now, I don't know if that's what Thelonious saw, you know what I'm saying? But to me, I think artists are great conversationalists. They hold conversation at the highest, most beautiful level. And when the piece talked to me the first time when I saw it in Italy 2 years ago, I was like, this is the piece that I'm talking about. You know what I mean? I realize there's confusion between peace with an I and with an A. I'm talking about the A, but I would love to let Thelonious talk a little bit about it.
No,
Yeah.
sure. I feel like you hit the nail on the head a bit when it comes to the reclaiming of a space. At the end of the day, I am one of the only professional black oil painters in the country of Italy. I paint at the highest level. I'm, being considered as one of the greatest living painters of the 21st century. I'm only 28 years old. I'm now the founder of the first black atelier in Italy, and I'm beginning to be one of the founders of the first black fashion houses in Italy. I've designed my entire outfit. Fashion is one of my second. I'm sorry, I designed my entire outfit. I'm starting the first black founded atelier for fine arts in Italy, based in Florence. Thank you. I'm also starting the first black-owned fashion house in Italy. I've designed my entire outfit, as well as my fiance. She's somewhere in the crowd. Her name's Rashid. Again, the nature of reclaiming the narrative. There were East African princes that used to rule Venice. I feel it's like I'm a direct descendant of Abraham. I feel like I have returned. I produced these pieces very next to the city that we know as Rome, the heart, the beating heart of Christianity, right? I am completely reclaiming the space of the Judeo-Christian representation through my own identity. Look in the mirror and you see Yeshua. And I'm talking to all my brothers and sisters in the crowd now. The piece is a direct descendant of that will of reclaiming, the narrative that was hidden and that is now being rediscovered by the beating hearts of young artists like me and you and Chance here. So again, like this piece, I just feel so blessed that everybody is able to see this. Hopefully soon, the piece will be installed publicly, temporarily somewhere, and then begin to travel the world. A lot of people know that I do at one point I was exclusively talking about Judeo-Christian themes and painting everybody black, because at the end of the day, everybody was black in that book, in that holy text. And I'm just speaking the truth. Right? Like, that's all I'm really doing. At the end of the day, I'm going to continue to do so. I just feel very blessed, and I want to say thank you, God, for this amazing moment, this divine concentrated will, this harmonious dialogue. And I'm just so grateful to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Asma, I want to just bring you in the conversation. I want to talk about the show that you curated at the Baltimore Museum of Art, The Culture, that Chance was involved in. I want to ask, how did that show get started? What was the origin of it? Because it was really a landmark show.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I can't believe I'm on the stage with these guys. So I will say that it started a while back. I grew up with hip-hop. Hip-hop made me find a home in growing up in Baltimore. When people are mostly white, black and brown folks have to find a home, and for me, that was hip-hop. And as you know, Tupac spent some time in Baltimore, so Tupac is my man. Sorry, Chance. So I ended up getting my Ph.D. in art history and then going to the National Portrait Gallery. So many of you know the National Portrait Gallery in the Smithsonian is all about bringing in portraits of incredible achievers to the United States. There was not a portrait of Tupac in that museum. So I was like, what is up with that? We've got to change that. And I brought in a poster, Thug Life, and it ended up being hung right across from the portrait of Donald Trump when he was elected president. So I thought that was a nice dialogue. But that really struck a chord in me because I saw that there's two worlds in the art world, and I know many of you see this. There's a white world and then there's a black world, or a black and brown world. And it's really, to me, governed by history and taste, because the folks who have been leading museums, the folks who have been curators, have not been black and brown. And so there's a predominant white taste. And so when I started to think about the 50th anniversary of hip hop, I thought there is so much connective tissue between what's happening in hip hop and what's happening in contemporary art. You cannot separate the two. The rise in portraiture and representation in contemporary art, with black and brown artists leading the game, Mark Bradford, Amy Sherald, well, Mark's not a portraitist, but all of those artists are actually drawing on hip hop themes. So I thought this is a time. And I co-curated it, by the way, Nate. I just want to give credit to my co-curators, Gamian Guillot, Hannah Clem, and Andrea Boston. Purnell.
So you mentioned Mark Bradford, Amy Sherald. What other artists were you seeking out when you were putting the show together? And did they have a direct link to hip hop, or what sort of was the relationship between artists and hip hop when you were putting the show together?
So we were looking at the more philosophical ways that hip hop has infiltrated our culture and really is a way of life. Social justice is one of the main aims, social consciousness of hip hop, but it's also about collaboration. What you're hearing between Chance and Thelonious, this bridge between music and art. You go back to the origins with Jean-Michel Basquiat, Andy Warhol, and even Blondie. There's a video with all three of them in there. Keith Haring. This high-low blending to me was really interesting. So for us, we thought, how can we show not just what everybody automatically thinks about with hip-hop, which is graffiti. It's not just graffiti. There's many themes that are probed in Chance's music, Black Joy, Ascension, thinking about how you're going to be in the afterworld, tribute, acknowledging the elders, the ancestors who came before you, and that's happening in the contemporary art world too. So it was more thematic, Nate, if you will, and I will say that there's one thing that I've learned. Sheila Rashid's outfit, Sheila is a Chicagoan. She decided to work with Chance, or maybe Chance decided to work with her. What I love, another debunking of a myth, is that hip hop has been homophobic. I think there's so much that can be said about the ways in which people of different genders and sexualities have been able to flow in and out. But I will also say that Sheila Rashid's outfit for you is iconic. Everybody walked by it in the exhibition and thought, oh my God, there's Chance. Even though we don't have you, it's just a mannequin. But the three hat and the red jumpsuit made a lot of people's day.
And Chance and Thelonious, I want to sort of get your take on just what Asma was talking about how there's a dialogue between hip hop and visual art. I mean, how do the two sort of influence each other and push each other? And, you know, being in both worlds, Chance, like, how do you sort of see that dialogue happening?
Well, yeah. For first off, it's like it's just an organic thing. I think like hip hop in its origins is like the non-commercialized street art. It starts with like parties, niggas. Ooh, Jesus Christ! People DJing, people, you know, doing graffiti. Like we were just mentioning graffiti. Like I don't know how many of y'all are real hip hop heads, but you know, it's 5 pillars to hip hop, right? Beatboxing, DJing, MCing, fashion, and the last one is graffiti. So to be hip hop in its origins, you had to be able to bomb. You had to be able to tag. Like you had to have some sort of visual arts, you know, acumen to a certain extent. And beyond that, there's just always been, I think, a synergy between the visual arts and hip hop, because album covers are like the biggest thing for us. Like that's how I ended up making this whole project, was thinking about the importance of like iconic hip hop album covers and how sometimes having a single image can kind of like marginalize the final product because there's so many songs. but one visual image. And I eventually made the decision to try and collaborate with multiple artists to individually paint the pictures that come from an individual music piece. But I think it's important for every space, but especially the contemporary art spaces, to have young, black rappers and painters on stages like this, because we could tell you what's going on outside. It's a hip hop is the news. It's the realest news that you're gonna get. And so when you allow us the space to shine in these spaces, then we can shine a light on all that's right and wrong in the world.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, what's the impact of having, you know, your outfit in this show at the Baltimore Museum of Art, you know, in a show about hip hop? I mean, does that make a difference for, you know, like young people in Baltimore who are coming and seeing that in a museum and seeing that in the context of an institution? I mean, Asma and Chance, like, I mean, how much of an impact does that have?
I think it's a huge impact. I think for one, like a big thing that I learned, and I'm gonna sound stupid in this art space, is that art, at least in the fine art space, is bigger than just, I really learned this from Thelo, it's bigger than just painting. Like, Thelonious is a sculptor, he's a musician, a filmmaker, and there's so many different mediums that fine arts moves through. And so I think that a young person in Baltimore might come through the exhibit and realize that the fashion that they're working on is museum worthy. And, you know, also for me, I want to talk my stuff too, because you know you always inspire me. So let me talk about myself too. Shake my hand. I'll do that. I'm getting that I should be in a museum.
You totally are. You already are.
I'm getting that, like, why wouldn't I? Because in that time period, we switched it up.
Like, that's museum quality level work being produced by the hands of, you know what I'm saying?
We got to be in the museum.
Children from the south side of Chicago. And that's just a reality that we now live in. The turn, it's called the apotheosis of culture, is happening. There's been an absolute meeting point. You're seeing it right here happen. We have friends, Vic, for example, who is a patron of the arts. Chance. There are young philanthropists, young rappers, young individuals that have a say-so in culture that are now influencing and pushing a creative dialogue that's extremely important for the next and the future generations of not only Chicago but the entire diaspora. So this is an extremely important moment, and I'm just very excited to see the explosion of the future per se, that creative explosion. Absolutely.
And on that note, Asma, as someone running, a incredibly important institution, how does that inspire you? How does what Chance is doing, what Thelonious is doing, how does that inspire you in terms of programming the museum and bringing people into the museum? I mean, how does that sort of shape your vision?
You are pushing us to do the right thing. That's what I will say. To do the right thing that hasn't been done for decades. So what's happened is that with this show and with bringing in fashion, as we've been just talking about, we are shattering stereotypes of what fine art should be, of what museum objects should be, of what the canon of artistic excellence should be. So that is really important because there's many different kinds of canons, and actually hip-hop has a canon. Chance is drawing on that canon. Thelonious, you're intersecting with that canon. But what I really wanted to make sure we say is that temporary exhibitions are a little bit of a cop-out for museums. I will say that. We put up a temporary exhibition featuring Black artistry and Black artistic excellence, but do we actually bring those works into our collection? That is the change that needs to happen.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I wanted to talk, Chance and Thelonious, about just sort of your experience in the larger art world, not just institutionally, like, being in the Baltimore Museum, but 2 years ago you went to the Venice Biennale for the first time. I saw you filming there on the Grand Canal, which was very exciting. A lot of people stopped in their tracks when they saw you there. You've been to Art Basel in Switzerland. What's it like to sort of go into these, these contexts and these biennales or art fairs and sort of work with artists and work with the art world infrastructure. What's your experience been?
I'm gonna keep it real. Have y'all ever been to Biennale? Anybody here? Raise your hands. Shout out my brother right here. Been to Biennale. Got a few of them in the back. For those of you guys that don't know, the Venice Biennale is one of the most respected art fairs in the world. It happens every other year in Venice, Italy, and it's a really big deal. It takes over the whole city. It's got a very old feel to it. They have like the arsenal, and they have like it's a crazy thing. It feels like Star Trek. It's so hard to explain to people who haven't been to it, but it's ridiculous and it's very respected. So me and my friends, shout out to Brandon Bro also in the back. I just want to highlight an amazing one of the biggest Chicago artists. It's just crazy that I'm sitting across from you right now. Shout out to Brandon Bro. But went out to Italy. Me, Thelo, who else came? Joey.
It was Reese.
Zakur. It was a bunch of us, but basically a bunch of black young people went to Venice Biennale, and we didn't have no credentials. So we found out quickly that they don't want us in their parties. But then we also found out that we had that. Yeah, we found out that we had that in common with a lot of the black artists that were actually presenting at the festival. Some of the biggest black artists couldn't get a credential in the party. I wanted to let that sit for a second. And what we ended up doing was the second to last day of the fair, we decided to rent out this old pub that stayed open 24 hours. At the end of the night when everything was closed, people would all try and line up to get into this little old pub with their like fancy gold-plated everything on. They're funneling trying to get in the door. So the night before we were about to leave, we went over to this pub that we couldn't get into a couple nights before and talked to the manager, and we rented out the space. And we threw a party for black collectors and black artists and black dealers and black patrons of the art, and sent them an invite and told them, hey, if you can't get into no parties this night, you could come party with us. And I'm telling you, it was the most beautiful thing. I could cry just thinking about it. It was the most beautiful thing I ever seen. Because I'm telling you, these are some of the greatest artists in the world, like Golden Lion Award winners that couldn't get into other parties that came to kick it with the rappers. And we all felt like we were on the same level. We all felt like we just wanted to get drunk. We just wanted to talk about how life is. And it also showed me, it magnified that the diaspora to me. Like, I'm talking to black artists from Scotland. I'm talking to black artists from Australia. I'm talking to black artists from Ireland. It's literally all these people that came that just want to show their ideas. They just want to have their stuff on display. And when we got together in that room, it solidified to me the importance of this Starline project and all the things that we're working on, and the importance of collaboration and conversation with people that may not be from the same neighborhood that you're from, but we have a connection. And I see your mama here too. What's up, Miss Stokes?
It's my mama, y'all.
Make some noise.
Woo! Woo!
But yeah. And Ghana was crazy too. Ghana was insane. Ghana actually fully inspired. Like, it showcased like the diaspora in like full effect. It was insane. Like, going from Venice, then we went to Paris, and then that was like a little earlier in the year. And then earlier last year, January, we was in Ghana, and Ghana was ridiculously inspiring for me. Like, I literally flew from Rome to Ghana, and I was just like, whoa. And then from there, it was obviously like I was seeing like a lot of depictions of like white Christ just in Ghana. I'm like, wow, I'm in West Africa. This is insane. And I was just also seeing a lot of empty billboards. So what I did, like, basically the following month was just rent out like a load of billboards and just start putting up my works.
Like works like that though, like beautiful works.
So I started renting. It was like a socio-political like performance, because like one of them was even across the street from the president's like house. So it was amazing, and that was activated. Like, that performance was just activated by just seeing Ghana. And our homie, one of our closest friends, Vic, is Ghanaian. So like the diasporas have been in full effect since we didn't even fully know, like when we were teenagers, that we would then be like in Paris and in like Ghana, just talking about art and like music and stuff, and in Chicago, like on panel. But we are, and it's a blessing for sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, Ghana sounds amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to ask just about sort of how projects like Starline Gallery, how the culture, you're bringing art to some extent to a new audience of people. I mean, Asma, how much are you conscious about? I'm going to make a show that's about hip hop, trying to get people in Baltimore to come see it who might not come to the museum. How much is this like really trying to get art out to everyone?
For me, it's super conscious. I feel like one of the first things that I learned when I was comparing the differences in the careers between me and my peers in the visual arts that I met in Ghana, first thing that I noticed was that we both got it bad, but it's like two different ends of the spectrum, right? It's like I'll make a song and I want it to get out there and I'll put it out. And I'm using, when I'm saying me, I mean like any artist that's trying to get their music out there. And I'll put it out on the internet, and I hope that somebody picks it up, and it'll just sit there on the internet, accessible but not necessarily promoted. And then on the other end, an artist, they'll paint a piece that perfectly describes the conflict. Let me slow down. They'll paint the. Right, what I'm saying? I'll slow down. They'll put out a piece that makes the statement that we all need to hear. And the problem is either the people that are in the tax bracket that can afford it don't know where to get their art from, or the people that got the money will buy it and put it in some collection, in some archive to go like wait until the artist gets big enough to go sell it to somebody else. But that conversation that they're trying to have, let's say both of the songs were about conflict, it's like it's pulled away. And so I'm starting to understand that I'm a great communicator, but so are some of my contemporaries. And that if I work with them, that I could put our stuff out there together in a place where it's perfectly accessible and anybody can have access to it and then interact with the piece in that way. But it's also not a thing of me like picking artists where I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta work with whoever. You know what I'm saying? Because they're so popular, because they're such a great artist. Really, a lot of it, especially with people that I'm just now meeting through the arts, it comes from dialogue. It comes from like going to cool parties, going to Freeze or going to Art Basel in Switzerland or going wherever, and I meet somebody that's a painter or a photographer or something there in the arts, and we just start talking. And we just start talking about the shit that we don't like and the shit that we do like and, you know, whatever. And that dialogue, no matter what, somehow it snowballs into something that's a little bit more heavy. And then we really get into it. And at some point, this has happened to me 7 times, a light bulb goes off and I go, oh, this is a person I'm supposed to be working with on this project. And then I show them my music, and then they pick a song, and then we create at the same time in tandem. I'm finishing a song and they're finishing a picture or a sculpture or whatever they're working on. And then we shoot a music video and it gets married together, the physical and the audio, and then it's out there. And it's a piece that people can enjoy from a tangible sit up and just look at it space. They can listen to it in their iPhone, or they could watch it, as a video. But it gives you a different ways to interact with the piece, so that conversation doesn't die in somebody's archive, so that it's there living for somebody to constantly come back to and learn something new from.
And I'm gonna just mention that is a fear of a lot of artists, especially me being, living within the independence. I even feel like I kind of created like a new genre of art called independent emerging. That's not really something that exists before me, but I am fully being recognized by museums and some of the biggest galleries, also some of the biggest secondary galleries. As an independent artist, I'm speaking on panel at a fair governed by galleries. I'm not designed by a gallery. So I'm kind of jumping over the gallery system. And I also feel like it's in the hands and should be in the hearts of the museum, the institutions, to purchase these works, like you were saying. Purchase the works directly from the independent artists to then almost elevate the scene, right? Because for example, I have been a lecturer. I am speaking on panel. I do have some of the biggest collectors. I am in dialogue with some of the biggest galleries. There's no reason why my work should not be in museums right now. You know what I'm saying? So it should be in the hearts. It's just it should be there's an artistic code that needs to be like really respected, almost like written, like, and I think that's what we're about to do.
Totally. Asma, do you have anything to add, just on that note about just like bringing people into the institution, bringing new artists into the institution?
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, this exhibition was co-organized with Baltimore Art Museum and the St. Louis Art Museum. So both of us, all of the curators, decided we had to have Baltimore artists. Cannot do an exhibition without talking about Baltimore artists and also St. Louis artists. And now that show is in Germany, in Frankfurt. That's where it's up right now. So these artists are getting that recognition there. It has 2 more stops after that in Cincinnati and then in Toronto at AGO. So they'll continue to get that from the local to the global. And that's what hip hop is, right? It's coming right from the local all the way up to the global. But the other thing I would say is we wanted to dispel 2 things. First of all, if you are a contemporary art lover and don't think hip hop has anything to do with the contemporary art that you love, this show will teach you that you're wrong. There is so much of what's out here right now that is influenced by hip hop, and that's what the show is teaching you. That's number 1. And number 2, for those of you who are hip hop lovers but feel that the contemporary art scene is too whatever, shishi, bougie, intimidating, what have you, this show is also allowing folks to feel like there is a space for them to be seen on the walls, to feel represented, as you said, Chance, to feel agency.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask, before we sort of wrap and go into the Q&A portion, just about Chicago and about Expo and about the scene in Chicago. I love coming here. It's always incredibly vibrant and exciting to be in Chicago. But, growing up, did you have a relationship with the museums here, with galleries? I mean, this is for Thelonious and Chance. Like, did you sort of engage in the art world growing up in Chicago? Was it different?
Yeah, I feel like for me, I actually dropped out of high school to go to the museum every day.
There we go.
I also used to sneak into this fair when I was a teenager. Now I'm on panel. Look at that. So
that is incredible.
So absolutely, the Museum of Contemporary Art and also the Art Institute was like a maker or breaker for my safety, my literal bodily safety, because it gave me a safe space to go look at beautiful works of art. This is not the prettiest city, if anybody knows that, right? And it's not the safest city, if you know anything about Chicago. So the institutions here really, I genuinely feel like painting saved my life, and those spaces gave me a literal safe house to, embrace what my heart sings, which is, painting, oil painting.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah, I think, so this is super cool.
Yeah.
For those of y'all that don't know, that's a Richard Hunt piece in the center.
Stupid.
That's myself and another artist that I grew up with.
Shout
I kind
out
of grew
Nico.
up with them niggas. I can't even lie. Nico Washington been my friend since I was a kid. He's one of the most respected Chicago contemporary artists out there, and he's at Kavi Gupta right now. If you haven't gone to see his recent show, but we opened up one of the Starline pieces, A Bar About a Bar, at the Art Institute of Chicago. And when we did that, Nico actually became the first black artist to graduate from the school since Richard Hunt to have their work showcased in the space. And
cool.
It's like this project has been very, very it takes a moment for me to just remember all the stuff that we've done, and the project ain't even out yet. But just what we've done in preparation for the project is something that I don't really get a chance to see until we're doing something like this. But I think as a kid, I'm trying to think of if I ever really did. I really didn't do nothing with the arts like that. I wasn't really good, again, at drawing or painting.
You was in the library all the time.
I was at the library.
You were always at the library.
I'm decent at reading. I could read for sure. I just can't draw. I feel like I've learned the importance of museums more and more as I got older, and I do respect a lot of the programs that I was in when I was younger. They made sure that we was at the Museum of Science and Industry. We was at the we was at the DuSable. But we weren't really at like, I don't remember really going to like MCA or going to like, you know what I'm saying, Art Institute like that when I was a kid. I feel like the city influenced us more in like doing bad stuff. Like
Kind of pushed you out of those
doing
spaces, unfortunately. Like, I used to be in there alone. Like, I would like have to beg my friends to come with me. They would be like, why are you going to the museum? Because it's paintings inside of there. You know what I'm saying? So it's actually like me, I'm starting the Black Academy of Art in Florence. And the reason is to bring people into the space to reactivate those levels of appreciation, those higher levels of appreciation, which are directly related to like moments like what Chance does, you know what I'm saying, what I do. So, you know, this is a very important dialogue, man, for like, you know, this group to be basically a witness of like, you know, an activative moment, you know what I'm saying, from where we think hip hop is just like this street level enterprise when actually it's directly related to the highest levels of articulation, which is like, you know, me painting at the Renaissance levels, right? Like I've walked through Vinci, right, where Leonardo da Vinci grew up. I have seen the obelisk in, you know, St. Maria Piazza in Rome. You know what I'm saying? I'm standing in front of the Mona Lisa for hours just trying to copy it. So like, you know, these are things that we can now do, and that those conversations are actually like, you know, tangible.
Woo! Yeah. And so before we get to the questions, Chance, I wanted to ask, do you know when Starline Gallery is going to come out, the album and all the art around it? Do you have an idea? You don't have to be too specific.
No, I don't. Just being honest, it's so funny when I get asked this question. It's like all the little neurons in my brain are running around. What do we do? What do we say?
I'm sorry, Chance. I just had to ask.
No, I think it's cool. Just being
excited.
honest, we're kind of in it right now. You know what I mean? The way that I think about it is this is my 3rd year doing Chicago Arts Expo. At this point, niggas come to see me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've been like learning. It feels like when Kanye went to Italy to go learn at the fashion houses, like I'm really just learning. Like I'm really just learning how to respect the space and how to respect the artists and not allow them or their products to become commodified. And I'm learning how to make my music match the level of the arts too. Like these pieces are, to me, forever pieces. Like I honestly think that later we're all gonna be able to say we was in the room with the Last Stair, and it means something. And I think for me, Starline is the music and Starline Gallery is the actual activation of it and the realization of it. And so anytime I travel to West Africa or I travel to the West Indies or I travel to any black country or I make a connection, I feel like I'm building the gallery up and I'm building the army up. And I'm going to the studio, I'm making the songs. The songs is fire. I can't lie. I can't lie. Am I lying, Justin? I ain't lying. It's actually crazy. But what would it be worth if it was the most beautiful painting and it was just locked up somewhere? So what I'm doing right now is I'm making sure that all these pieces that I'm writing have legs and have a visual component that can talk to somebody that maybe doesn't understand what I be talking about in my music. Maybe doesn't understand a music video, but they understand the piece that Mary had when it's captured in a piece by Thelonious. And so the gallery itself is a work in progress. And I think as I continue to work on it, I'll continue to share pieces of it. And hopefully, prayerfully, as I continue to work with artists of the caliber of Thelo, I'll have more opportunities to sit in front of rooms of people like y'all and just talk about it a little bit.
Well, that sounds great to me. I think we're going to open it up to some questions from the audience, so you guys are down.
Yeah, I want to do something real quick, though.
Okay.
Essence, I want to do something real quick, though. Right now?
What you trying to do?
Listen, y'all. Yeah, y'all expect me
I
to
didn't
stand
even know he was
up.
going to do this, y'all.
No one knew I was going to do this. Yeah, y'all scared. What could I do next? I don't know. This is performance art. No, it's not. I have a concert this Saturday where I'm performing some new music and showing some new pieces off. And my new theater is called the Ramova Theater. And what I did before y'all came in and sat down, I put 2 tickets under somebody's seat.
Whoa.
If you reach under your seat and you got 2 tickets, yeah, y'all, I'm Oprah right now. Dig really deep, like brush it. Dig under and around. Under and around.
When you find the tickets, put them up.
We got a winner in the bag.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Everybody else that wants to go, tickets are online. There's another winner. We got another winner somewhere. Reach under your chair. Are they standing
Right
up?
there.
I don't know where
Right
we're
there.
pointing.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir.
Oh,
congrats. Make some noise. That's right. Anybody that didn't get a ticket, or if you didn't have a chair, it's okay. Tickets are still available at RemovaChicago.com. The concert this Saturday is in support of Social Works. Make some noise for Social Works, my nonprofit that supports Chicago public schools. And if you're a big wig, also, this was all pre-planned. They told me to say these things. If you're a big wig, you got some guilt. No, that's not what I'm trying to say. If you somebody that's what's the word? A patron. And you want to support the arts in Chicago, you want to support the students in Chicago, Austin Vesely. If you want to support the youth in Chicago, make sure you meet these 2 young, awesome people, Essen Smith and Justin Cunningham. They run my nonprofit Social Works in Chicago. Holla at them. Get in tune, you know what I'm saying? And that's the end of my speech. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Chance. I think we have a question back here.
Hello. Test. All right. You might have answered my question, but my name's Gustavo, live here in Chicago, big fan of the arts. How do I get plugged in? Like put me on. Where do I check to find out where the events are going on? Like, what's the move?
Specific events like the Starline events, like Art Expo events or Social Works?
Yeah,
Art-related
in
events?
Chicago, like in general, that too. For
Just
sure.
things dealing with me?
No, with art, Chicago.
Art in Chicago?
I feel like, man,
Yeah.
talk to the community that you see around you right now. Like, you probably got some of the biggest collectors or, like, patrons of the arts right here, literally now. So make some connections, you know what I'm saying? And, like, move forward from there. Follow up with some people. Like, and I'm just giving you a genuine. You see somebody right there? With hat on?
Yep.
Hello, my question's for Chance. As a hip hop artist, how do you deal with the balance between receiving praise as you go overseas, you're making these performances, but still as like a black man, sometimes you're denied the respect and dignity that you deserve. How do you balance that on like a daily basis as a professional?
I think that's an issue for not just rappers, that's just an issue for us, period. Is dealing with a world that doesn't accept your humanity, or otherizes you, and having to work within a system of capitalism and racism where you're trying to get the best job and you're trying to get the best car and you're trying to get the best school and you're trying to do whatever you can to move up on that spectrum, and then some point you get reminded that you're not that. And I deal with that shit probably once a week, I would say at least, especially when I'm in certain places, you know what I'm saying? So I think what it is you just gotta, I don't know, it's a never-ending battle. I'm trying to think of what I be telling myself. I be like, man, they can't beat my ass though, you know what I'm saying? Like, I say little things to myself that remind me of my humanity and of my ability to choose who I am at any given moment and not have it be based on anybody.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
I think we got a few people.
You next.
We'll get to as many as we can.
Thank you. I'm wondering, how do I get my art to you?
As a collector, you could just, I'll get your number. I'll get your info.
Beautiful. I would
Absolutely.
really appreciate that.
For sure.
I just come from a place where it's not my audience. I know I'm bigger than my environment. I'm ready to be seen by the world. I'm very multimedia, very multidisciplined. Anything that I put my mind to, I will tackle it. I just turn impossible to impossible. So
Amen.
Thank you for doing what you do and putting all of us on.
I appreciate it.
Hi.
Hey.
Hello, hi. My name is Cami. I'm a curator, and I'm also the head of VIP and gallery relations at 154, which is the fair that focuses on contemporary African art and black artists and artists from the continent and its diaspora. I was wondering, actually, in terms of the name of your gallery, Starline, does it have anything to do? Is it connected to Black Star Lines in Kumasi?
It absolutely
Yeah?
is.
Okay.
So brief history lesson. I'm gonna try to keep it as brief as I can because I go on and on about this. But yeah, the title Starline Gallery, it's actually pulled originally from the Black Star Line shipping company, which was owned and operated by Marcus Garvey in the 1920s. Basically, he was a black Jamaican-born American living in New York that started something called the UNIA. It was America's first recognized basically black liberation movement. They were really big on black capitalism, which we learn over time doesn't work, but it was a vehicle that created capital and platformed issues of black folks in the 20s in a way that nobody had ever done. And so Marcus Garvey, this dude, incredibly crazy life. He inspired Malcolm X's father and Martin Luther King's father. A lot of our movements come from him, but one of the coolest things to me that he did was in 1919, he bought an old used ocean liner ship from the US government. And he created trade routes between New York and South America and some of the Black Caribbean islands. And the whole goal of it was to not just create wealth from the trade, but also to create connections and create a black coalition internationally. This was happening in the 20s, right? This sounds like what we'd be trying to do now, but this was going on a long, long time ago. And obviously, he was, like a lot of people, thwarted by J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI. They framed him for mail fraud and deported him back to Jamaica before he could really ever make the voyage that he wanted to, which was to West Africa. But he ended up inspiring so many different movements. So like you mentioned, in a lot of places in West Africa, a lot of places around the continent, there are Black Star-related movements, programming. The Black Star itself is in the flag of Ghana because when Kwame Nkrumah liberated them, he wanted to create a Pan-African nation. He wanted a space that was built in that same idea of bringing black people from different countries together. And so you got Ghana, you got Jamaicans, the entire Rastafarian religion, or they don't call it a religion, but the Rastafari way is inspired by Marcus Garvey and the Black Star. And I look at this project as a vehicle for creating that connection. So it's got to be a big boat, so I call it the Star Line. And the collection of all the pieces and all the people together is called the Starline Gallery.
Okay. Next question.
My question's for Thelonious and Sans, if you'd like to answer. So, Thelonious, are there any Bible stories that you haven't painted yet that you would think would make a great painting, either by yourself or someone else?
That's a wonderful question. Yeah, a Bible story that I have not painted yet is when David played the harp to, I believe, relieve Saul of his evil spirit. I just thought it was so beautiful that David played a harp. You know what I'm saying? Because I actually made a painting. It was shown on this slide. I don't know if I could pull that up, but that was a part of a diptych. The first, it was me, a self-portrait of me playing like a bass. And the next painting that I produced after that was actually me as the David. That's not the painting I'm talking about. It's me playing like a cello. I'm like crying. But there you go right there. But I was thinking about, and I'm actually like, instead of wearing like, because I wanted to like speak about the levels of harmony, because like through this black narrative is so filled with trauma. So instead of putting the crown of thorns, I put the actual like a rose bush on my head. But I actually painted a David. I just thought it would be interesting to like revisit that narrative in a potentially like, not even a modern way, because I don't want to be blasphemous anyway, but like that's the story for you, is when David played the harp.
Okay. Next question.
Black shirt standing up.
I'm a Mexican Jew from West Rogers Park. I'm a little bit older than you guys. And I remember, and I was the Jewish girl whose Jewish grandma paid for my Catholic school education at St. Ben's on Irving Park. And my favorite part were the DJ sets at house parties. How do we bring that connectivity again back to the city of Chicago for the kids? And Thelonious, specifically for you, what resonated for me was you skip school to find a safe place. Kids in black and brown communities don't even know they can come to downtown Chicago to see the art collections. How do we bring our children to those safe spaces? What's the answer?
We have to create those safe spaces. So, unfortunately, I'm creating that space in Europe. The reason why I'm doing that is because I live there. But like, obviously, I plan on expanding to my hometown of Chicago. So, as an independent artist, I'm also an art dealer. Like, I sell all my artwork by myself. I'm also a founder of a private academy. I'm also a founder of a fashion house. So it's like, young people like me need help. So to create those spaces, just spark the dialogue with me. Like, you could take my email down, and after this we could talk for sure. Because like, places like Chicago need a Black Academy of Art. You know what I'm saying?
All right, we have time for one more question.
Standing up in the back with the black shirt.
Hi,
Yeah.
I'm Sarah. I was really interested because I think when you said like going to museums is something you did later in life, like it's the same thing for me. Like I really appreciated that. And when it comes to like the diaspora and like you tend to see like the complexity and how you feel in the diaspora in art more than anything else in life. And I was interested because Starland Gallery is like based in Baltimore and you've done so much for Chicago, but do you see yourself bringing Starland Gallery, kind of similar to the last question, to the art spaces and the art schools around in Chicago currently with like young universities, like people my age who are just now kind of being able to be in this art world? Because I do kind of feel sometimes art is very, it can be, like you said, to that higher tax bracket. Like I wasn't able to go see art like that when I was younger. I wasn't able to travel and see art reflected in that. And do you see yourself bringing Starland Gallery to Chicago, to the art schools in Chicago, and just kind of that space for young black and brown kids to kind of see themselves reflected and kind of start talking about art, start creating art, and being represented publicly to the city and the people of Chicago in general?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's kind of the goal of the whole thing, is to make it mobile and make it accessible for people to interact with. There's this artist, and I always mess up his name. I know his last name is Barnes. Who did the Sugar Shack?
Ernie Barnes.
Ernie Barnes. Ernie Barnes did the Sugar Shack, and it's one of the most iconic paintings of all time. Period.
He went so crazy. That
He went
narrative
so
is crazy.
bro. And it's the cover of the Marvin Gaye album. It's on the intro of Good Times, but it became the aesthetic of like your black
almost.
elders.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't go to your aunt or auntie's house without seeing a print of one of his pieces. And when he first made it, it was at a really critical time in like American culture where the idea of black pride, of black power, was a brand new thing. Like, it was damn near a cuss word. Like, people, first of all, people didn't want to be called black anyway at this time. But to take it and be like, this is black power, this is black pride, it was such a radical and new thing that white people and black people were scared of it. And it was James Brown who said, "I'm black and I'm proud," that changed it was a paradigm shift where everybody was like, okay, I like this black thing. I'm black too. What is black culture? You know, you would be a black person in the 60s and 70s trying to figure it out. And this man, Ernie Barnes, captured black culture and put it into these pieces and created this series that he then traveled around the States for years just showing these pieces everywhere that he could go, in the nicer institutions and on the lawns and at the block club parties and everywhere possible, till it was in the music and it was on our television. And it gave us something to have of our own. You know what I mean? It gave us our own language, our own like conversation. And I think that's the goal with this, is to eventually, once it is completed, then take these pieces, these 16 pieces, and house them in spaces where people can come in and interact with the art and hear it and see it for what it really is. And then take it to Baltimore. You know what I'm saying? And then take it to Ghana and take it to South Africa and take it everywhere that we can. You know what I mean? So that we could continue to have the conversation.
Woo! Woo! Sounds great to me. Asma, Thelonious, Chance, thank you so much. This was an incredible panel. I can't thank you enough. Thank you all for coming.
You guys.
Thank you, guys.
Enjoy the
Appreciate
fair.
you.
I'll see y'all
next time.
Saturday.
God bless. Thank you.